Welcome to another episode of the MSO Crusaders. Today we are back with our guests. Our guests are back. Our guests are back joining us. They have Lynn and the Owl, and Lynn has been with us back about 7 months ago, I guess.
Mhm.
Uh, how are y'all doing today?
Doing well, thank you very much.
Yeah, last time we had you, I think, was November 30th, give or take. So a lot has happened, and we hear maybe some good things.
Yes, indeed. We initially were going to a clinic in Buenos Aires for 3 months, and Lynn was pretty well deteriorated by that point when we arrived. So the first thought was, can they restore as much of Lynn as possible to have the treatments do the best job possible? And toward the end of those 3 months, the Dr. Teresita Movilia convinced us to stay an extra 3 months because she felt that Lynn could make additional gains that would be meaningful. And Lynn did.
So if I remember right, this was a lot of physical therapy, and there was stem cells, if I was correct.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Correct. And what makes this unique from any other clinic that we've encountered is how they go about it. Gustavo Movilia, the father who started the clinic, he's currently at Wake Forest at the Center for Rejuvenative Medicine.
Wow.
And he was headhunted to do work for the U.S. Army on para and quadriplegic patients using his therapies.
It was in increments, right, for one part of the body, and then another part of it. They have to accept parts of the body at a time.
Yes, but what he can do is he uses lymphocytes in large quantities, like Lynn would get 300 million once a month. And the lymphocytes are going in trying to repair damage. It's their job. It's what they do naturally. And then he would introduce stem cells, either neurological or cardiovascular, depending on which day it was.
Yeah.
The 200 million to 300 million count again. And that being is if the circulatory system is functioning properly, it's a better highway to carry neurological cells. And the orthostatic blood pressure, which is a huge problem for Lynn, is very much helped by that. So we were seeing gains.
That's great. So
And what was that?
We were seeing strong gains. They would also couple this with 3 hours of intense physical therapy 5 days a week. And the way their system works down there is their tax base is higher, but schooling is free. So every physical therapist we ran into had been in school for 7 years.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, so they're very well skilled at what they do.
They're working you out like crazy, aren't they, Lynn?
And the daughter is in charge of the clinic. She's also a doctor, Teresita. Another daughter is in charge of the laboratory where they produce the cells. And the son, Emiliano, he's the business manager at this time because they're trying to take the clinic to the next level where it gets a bit more recognition, which it really needs to. Because we saw, if I may, we saw amazing things there. There was a young lady who's Argentinian. She had had a terrible accident and broke her back. She'd been in a wheelchair for 8 years. She'd been going to the clinic for 2 years, receiving the same kind of treatments that Lynn is, cellular therapy, intense physical therapy. And when we left, she was taking her first independent steps.
Wow. In 2 years. Wow.
In 2 years. What they're doing is quite staggering. With MS, they're on the verge of calling it a vaccine because they've now treated over 150 people where they've put MS into remission. They've done similar results, not remission with Parkinson's, but a great deal of help for people with Parkinson's. So we look at Lynn, who has MSA-P, and that's why we rolled our dice to go there. By the time we were leaving, Teresita was referring to the gains Lynn was making as unprecedented. Because, of course, with MSA, you do not gain anything back.
They just take and take.
But what Lynn was doing was gaining things back.
Well, how so? Could you give us a couple examples?
For example, when we left, Lynn was having a very hard time getting around the house and such. When we left there, she was with help using a treadmill for 3 minutes straight, for several sets of that. She was going up and down stairs, trading off her feet. She was being able to go from a seated position to climbing a wall and back again, using various bounce techniques, being unsupported on the vibration platform, those kinds of things. Things that she could not do when we left here. But they're the first to say that the cells without the therapy, for physical therapy, is greatly diminished. They really need both together.
Now, did they have any way to? I'm a pragmatic.
No, of course, please.
I'm a critic of many things, and my wife and kids would definitely attest to that. Not all criticism is bad, but were they able to medically prove that it was? So I know there's scales out there for dexterity and what somebody's movement is. Have they done any radiological scans to prove that maybe some of this stuff is coming back?
Well, we just had an MRI with Lynn about a week ago. And so I'm taking all 3 results of those MRIs down to them because it's the same technician, same machine.
Yes.
So results. As Lynn is entering year 6 of her MSA now, we want to take those results and say, well, how is she doing compared to herself? How is she doing compared to other MSA patients?
Yes.
They did a encephalograph of her brain waves, and we're going to do another when we get back down. So we have comparative data there too.
Gotcha.
Did it help her speech at all?
Not yet. There is a speech therapist there, but she's only available 1 day a week, so it's not intensive. But on the other hand, she hasn't really lost anything.
If I remember correctly, Lynn, you were diagnosed when I was diagnosed, correct?
About the same time, yeah. It was you two were within about 6 months of each other, I think.
Yeah.
And I know as we look at Lynn's symptoms, she had had it for 9 months to a year prior to that diagnosis. So we're talking early 2019.
And that whole process for 3 months that turned into 6 months.
Yes.
And that's 9 more months. They're going 3 more months.
Yeah, well, when we first got down there, Teresita saw Lynn. She was, I'm glad you came when you did because Lynn's reaching a threshold where I can't help her.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about these guys is they're direct and honest with us about everything. They look at us and say, MSA is complex. It's fairly unique. It's just short of being ALS.
Yeah.
So we don't know where we can take Lynn. We know we can help her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're doing now is we're trying to figure out what is Lynn's path.
How's the dexterity?
Not the best. She's still using her phone or iPad or Kindle,
That's good.
So I do exercises and such every day.
Okay. How old is Lynn?
Overall, not too bad. What we've
I'm sorry, I slurred that incorrectly. It's a bad day for speaking to. How many years old is Lynn?
71 these days.
71, and to see improvement at 71 with MSA is just never. I've never heard of it.
Exactly, and that's what's staggering. We saw other patients that we became friends with because, of course, a lot of them are long-term as well.
You ready to run a marathon, Lynn?
What? Sorry, Daisy?
I said, are you ready to run a marathon, Lynn?
We hope one day. But we saw patients with MS, Parkinson's, they were being helped, and I mean achieving gains. We saw a number of paraquadriplegics who were achieving gains. Two other people than the one I mentioned came in wheelchairs and left on walkers. One fellow who had been coming for a while, he's now just literally walking. And then there was a kid out of the NFL. He came down, he completely blew out his left knee, and they totally rebuilt it, and he made training camp. So physical injuries are very, very good with. The neurological injuries, of course, are much more tricky.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said, MS can go into remission by itself, but you go into a facility which is making these patients go back into remission.
Exactly.
Is very positive.
And that's very encouraging for us too, because, Obviously, this is the more complex version of any of that.
Yes.
Not to diminish MS in any way. It's a horrible illness, but
Now, are you
Uh,
still doing the microdosing?
yes, that does help with the grand mal-like seizures. But what we discovered since we've been back, sorry, I'm coming back around to something I was going to say earlier. Um, the cardiovascular cells begin to lose their efficacy after about 6 weeks. So Lynn does need them on a very regular basis of once a month. And without those, now we've been back, 8 weeks, we're seeing some of the orthostatic hypertension symptoms come back. So there's some grand mal-like seizures. Her blood oxygen levels will ping pong anywhere between 98 and 78. And, blood pressure will drop, so heart rate will increase and vice versa to try and balance all that out. But that also tells us what those cells were doing.
Yes.
They were, in fact, more than a band-aid. They were literally a vehicle driving Lynn. So that's great. And these,
It's so important to have the right stem cells. I mean, right treatment to begin with, but also the right stem cells because, they give you, like you mentioned, a gentleman that, blew out his knee or had a sports injury. You can use almost any stem cell you want to fix that type of tissue regeneration. But for us with MSA and Parkinson's, you got to get those pluripotent, even the mitochondrial ones are okay. But getting the right dosage and right timing is everything, and it's
right.
amazing. It's amazing because I've read so much research that getting stem cells is one thing, but having a regular regimen of dosing is key to stem cells. And the place I went to for my stem cells, they had people that come in there for a lot of different reasons, including post-stroke rehab, and they kept having stem cells every 3 to 6 months, and they were having phenomenal progress in getting back to normal as possible.
Exactly. And with this process that is different, the son has done a lot of research and obviously following what his father's doing and such. There's apparently 2 or 3 other labs in the world that are capable of doing what they're doing. And one, of course, is Wake Forest, where the father is. But protocols that he's doing, the reason for the lymphocytes is not only repair damaged cells and pathways, but they cross the blood-brain barrier freely, so they can carry these stem cells to the brain. The other thing he does is he takes peptides and amino acids, and we're talking, nanograms, and adds it to the batch to differentiate them into becoming neurological cells. So he can pre-program those cells to be neurological, and then literally those lymphocytes help carry them across the blood-brain barrier into the brain.
Wow.
So that way we can talk hundreds of millions of cells, and unlike the clinical trial Mayo, where they're talking about 75 million.
Yeah,
because they're going fine, they want to not have the spine swell. We can literally put a lot into a person.
I've never heard about the lymphocytes because besides that, I never heard of it before. The only way across the blood barrier was like what they did to me to actually inject through the nasal passage. Is the closest thing to passing the blood-brain barrier. So that. Apparently, they know something that others don't know. That's phenomenal.
And obviously, with any stem cell place or anything like that, you have to do your research and make sure we're talking legit. Obviously, with Gustavo, we're talking very legit. I mean, I've looked at over 70 published papers he's done on the subject.
And that was going to be my next question. Like, do they have documentation of these findings?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is still being crafted to be released into the journals and such.
Sure.
With anything medical, it takes quite a while. And some will poo-poo what he does because he doesn't do clinical trials, but he looks at somebody like Lynn and goes, it's a terminal illness. I'm going to write off 33% just to prove the other 66% works.
Yeah.
So that's what drives him crazy. But they're creating relationships with more doctors in America and Europe to get people down to the clinic, make people aware that it's available. And I mean, there's doctors here who are like, hey, I want to invest in this. I'm like, well, we don't need that. That's cool.
Yeah.
But they also want to make sure that the doctors they work with send people, and they're asking, why is it so affordable? And they look at it funny. The movie is looking at them funny, and they go, well, it's because we're not here to make a profit.
I wanted to touch the base on that. I had looked into going down there myself because I
Mhm.
was very interested in our last conversation. But what turned me away was the money I couldn't afford. Staying down there for 3 months first of all, and flying back and forth, and then they were about the procedures, and they were like, uh, you know, the physical therapy, of course, you had to pay for, right? And the regiments were $4,000 each. Right? Is that correct?
Oh, that is correct. And I think it's on a personal basis because everybody's a unique case. So they look at it and they go, okay, well, da 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 da. And what is it going to take to help you?
Yeah.
When we first started in Mexico, those treatments were running about 12,000,
Hmm.
and that was beyond our ability to continue. But it was also through somebody who was working with these folks, and it turned out that lab was not up to their quality standards, so they broke away from that. We had to go to Argentina, but I'm also because I have a fairly unique skill set, and what they're doing is they are going to make sure they certify for Euro and FDA qualifications, so they get that good housekeeping seal of approval.
Wow. Yeah.
I-
Absolutely.
I'm going to do some work for them that will help them put all the paperwork in the right order.
And
Where
to
we're
speak,
literally trading treatments for work.
yeah, and to speak about the whole family being in the medical field, that is very common when it comes to not only Asian but also Spanish/Latin America.
Mhm.
My wife's family in Mexico is, I mean, Surgeon General of Mexico for the president himself, Mexico City University. His wife is a psychologist. They own their own clinics around Acapulco, Mexico. Their daughters are in the medical field as well. One son's an architect, but yeah, like schooling there is free, so everybody, as long as you can afford housing and books, like everybody in Mexico is either a doctor or an architect for the most part. So it's very common to see whole families being a part of the same industry or the same trade.
And yeah, he has, let me see, Gustavo has 6 daughters and a son.
Wow.
I know there's a daughter in Canada, I think one in London, one in San Francisco.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, Emiliano tells a great story about his dad when they finally saved enough money to buy their first car as a family.
Mhm.
Dad thought about it, and he was just starting his clinic at that time, so he took the money and bought an apheresis machine instead.
That's
that's
okay.
that's his dedication to the craft. While we were there, though, one of the reasons the son and I became friends is they had just finished constructing a new laboratory facility, and my experience helped them get moved in and settled a little bit. And I can tell you the quality of it is comparable to anybody anywhere. Literally, you have to pass through 6 different enter rooms to change and clean yourself and eventually get into the clean room. The first 2 labs do cellular and genetic work. The third lab does nothing but check the quality of the work of the first 2 labs. And then they send their work out to an independent lab to check their work.
Wow.
So that's as good as anybody.
Very thorough.
Very thorough. And that's what you need.
Yeah, man. I was really excited about that. I hated that the money was an issue with me.
Yeah, we've found that for what it takes to fly down, and quite frankly, as advanced as Lynn is, we want to put her in a pod in first class so she can lie down and sleep.
Yeah.
And well, I'm going to go there too. For the cost of a round trip, as much as our treatments. So
Really.
what we're doing for this, 'cause, we're going to the other end of the earth. So what we're doing this time, we're going to leave around November 1st, just before, and we're going to go for a year, 13 months. And that way we've rented an apartment, 3 blocks from the clinic, which is affordable. And, we're not going back and forth, which is more affordable. Food and such is very affordable while you're there, of course.
Oh yeah.
And this will be where the rubber meets the road kind of trip.
Yeah.
Where is Lynn afterwards? Where's my little personal clinical trial at? And then we will come to a decision of, okay, we're in a good place, or we're advancing still, but slowing the progress. So is this worth it? Obviously, a healthier demise is better than an unhealthy one.
Yeah.
Or are we finally achieving the end and need to stop?
Lynn, how do you feel? Do you feel
Not great. Since we've
exhausted?
since we've been back, each week is a bit more of a decline.
Yeah.
So literally, but they've banked her cells. So we're literally going to get off the plane the next morning, go in for the first next treatment.
Yeah, I imagine it's just the physical toll of traveling back just takes it out of you.
Is an absolute beating for the poor girl.
Yeah.
Are you doing physical therapy at home?
As much as we can, it's tapering down as she starts feeling worse.
Yeah.
And that's difficult because I'm back at work too.
Did they employ any type of like bariatric oxygen chambers down there?
They actually build them in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
So that is our goal. Lynn has never been in one, so we're going to try one here,
Mm-hmm.
see how she responds. And since a hyperbaric chamber is literally, jet fuel for stem cells.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
They say for the first 3 weeks after stem cells, bariatric greatly improves the diffusion within the body of stem cells.
What was that Eric did? Is it not very
Yeah.
CDSC?
Yeah, he had something very similar to it. Yeah.
Yeah. You heard of CDSC?
Yeah.
So that's the plan, is to get down there and get the treatment, find one of their partner clinics that has a hyperbaric that we can work with, because there are quite a few in the city. And
Hyperbaric. I don't know if I said bariatric or hyperbaric. But
you
hyperbaric.
did say bariatric, but I knew what you meant.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes you can be a little harder to stand, and I'm deaf, so so we're trying the, like I said, we're trying the hyperbaric here, just to see how it goes. We've done a little oxygen in home just to try and balance things to fill that gap in the meantime.
Yeah,
Because of course I don't want to upset them by returning an inferior product for their clinic.
that's true.
Got to have Lynn in the best shape as I can have her in.
Yeah, I would think even if just my own opinion, even if half her symptoms got better or a quarter of them got better, that's absolute progress.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got the video shots of it from before and after, and
Yeah.
it is surprising the progress made.
Yeah.
It really is. And with this break we've had and the decline,
Yeah.
the question will be, okay, can we pick up near where we left off?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing. So I'm anxious to get back.
Oh, I would be too. That's promising. I mean, just to see the difference says a lot.
Yeah,
I'm happy for you.
it does. I mean, we got her back here, and she couldn't use the walking parallel bars we have in the living room for her before we left. And when we first got back, she was taking 4 or 5 passes on there. So progress was made.
Yeah, you see. So now she's on a treadmill.
Yeah. When we first got back, she was
Well,
on.
yeah.
It's hard to, gauge things because as the aphasia of the cardiac cells drop off, she drops off.
Yeah, but still, I mean, imagine. I mean, Daisy herself coming back on a treadmill. I mean, it's just a treadmill out of the water would be fantastic,
Oh, exactly.
They don't have them in the water anymore where I go. They changed buildings, so I don't have it in the water anymore.
Oh,
I hate that.
Why not?
It's a new building and a new pool.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
They've been bought out by another company.
well, we'll have to give you roller skates for the pool.
Yeah. And it's not even a chlorine pool, it's a biocarbonated pool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, it's a lot harder than it was.
So total cost, including more or less like food and your stay and treatment for 3 months, what did it come out to more or less?
3 months, you're gonna have to let me work on that in my head.
or 6 or per week or however you got it broken down.
Well, I'm planning for this next year. Rent is about 18,000 right there.
Okay.
Plane tickets going down are about 13, and then food. I mean,
No, that was 13 each or 13 total?
sorry,
13
each.
Oh, wow.
Oh no, total on airfare total.
Okay.
But
A little bit.
that's first class with the sleeping pods and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Someone
How
who
many,
was
how,
healthy would be able
how,
to.
how many hours?
The actual flight time is, I think, 12 and a half.
Jeez.
It's like going to Europe. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Do you have a sleeping pods when you go out of the country?
Yeah, she managed to sleep on the way back this time. Gave her a muscle relaxer so there wasn't as much muscle pain from being in one position. And that actually lulled her to sleep, which was nice.
Yeah. Long lost sleep on an airplane, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, and Argentina is a very long country, so
Yeah,
get down towards the Arctic Circle down there.
absolutely. It's the landmass closest to it. But fortunately, Buenos Aires is in the northeast corner, so we're
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Not quite as
tropical. Yeah,
uh,
you don't have much of a tan. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised.
well, we don't spend much time outside, a lot of clinic time. But of course, right now is the spring because they've just gone through winter.
Ah, okay, that makes
Opposite
sense.
seasons.
How's the food there?
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. There isn't much that's certified organic, but it is organic. Yeah, grass-fed beef, plenty of fish.
Yeah, I imagine pesticides are very expensive in Southern America.
Exactly. Well, and as far as the culture goes, it's very Spanish and Italian.
Yeah,
So you don't think of it like Mexico or Central America or even Brazil. They're unique in that sense where, over half the country has Italian heritage.
wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a pretty large German from the World War II days of migration down there. I was reading about.
Well, there was a little bit then and larger prior to just World War One.
Okay.
I don't remember the impetus, but
Yeah.
I discovered Germanic beers dating to 1900.
I guess David and myself have declined it. Y'all seen us.
Yeah, and the way they run the government is interesting. The new president, he's a bit of an interesting talker, a little bit on the fringe, but he's actually a trained professional economist.
There you go.
Since we've been there, actually, the inflation has been stable. Not very much movement, which is better than it was prior to our arrival. He's now allowing foreign currency to be used as business currency. Before it had to be in pesos.
For investment, yeah.
Yeah, so it opens up, the trade and such more. There is still very high tariffs, but that's to protect national industry.
Yeah.
If you want to sell a can of Coke and import it, it's going to be $10. If you want to build a Coca-Cola factory and hire local workers to make it, it's going to be $1.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
I heard he changed the economy almost overnight when he came into the presidency.
Yes, he did. And now even his supporters, those that I've talked to, admit that the problem is too big. It's a decades old problem.
Yeah.
If our government wasn't to print money at the blink of an eye, we'd have the same problems.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's that. Population wise, we're talking about 45 million people, a third of which live in Buenos Aires. And it's about a third the size of the United States. So it's a large country.
Yeah. A lot of mountains.
Buenos Aires itself is about like Atlanta or South Carolina as far as the climate goes.
It's not bad at all. It's perfect for him. It's like not too hot, not too cold.
Exactly.
Do your physicians up here have anything to do with it? Anything down there?
Our immediate physician, her primary care physician, knows what we're doing, is very understanding and encouraging. What was interesting is we hadn't had established neurological care here in the States since we left Mayo with the diagnosis. So we said, okay, within the other hospital system, could we get a referral for a neurologist, in the movement disorder specialty? And she gave us a referral, and that person saw a note in Lynn's file about getting stem cell treatments. Instead of asking a question about the quality of the people we're seeing, she immediately went to the far end extreme and said, stem cells are unproven, they're untried, there's dangerous side effects potentially. You're going out of the country for this. Well, we have to. So I won't see Lynn unless she agrees to stop stem cell treatments.
Really?
In our opinion, that is a death sentence for Lynn, so no thank you. We received another referral as a result to the University of Iowa hospital system, which is a very good hospital, and they agreed to see us, but their first opening was March 25th of next year.
Yeah. I can't believe a doctor would say you have to stop the stem cells when we ourselves in the U.S. are conducting clinical trials on stem cells themselves. Of course, they're unproven because there's not enough research documentation to prove their efficacy, right? If we don't do the research, how do we prove it? That comment makes absolutely no sense at all.
It doesn't, but it's also, I wouldn't say political, but the party line, shall we say, of how the pharmaceutical companies want it viewed.
Yeah.
So they can figure out the patenting of the process or the product that's resulting from your own body.
Yeah.
There's going to be a negative effect. And plus, for many things, it can cure you.
Yes.
We don't want to cure you. We want to prolong the problem and treat it.
Right. Yeah. Money.
Exactly. So that was disappointing because that person didn't even ask us who we were seeing or what we were doing.
That's horrible. I mentioned a few of my neurologists. I've had stem cells and still researching them, and they're like, they're neither neutral nor positive. Like they didn't promote them because there is no evidence, but they didn't say no. And if they're saying whatever you feel is best in your interest, do it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're dealing with a terminal disease, if you felt going to a platform in outer space and jumping to the center of the earth without a spacesuit might help you, why not? At least we'll have some clinical data to work with there.
Absolutely.
How do you feel, Lynn? Do you feel that it's all worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. If nothing else, the culture down there, they're as technologically advanced as we are here, but how people care for each other down there reminds me of America in the 70s. If you drop something on the street, a stranger will stop, pick it up, and hand it to you. If you stumble, 4 strangers will help you get up.
Yeah.
That kind of kindness that is just inherent to their society is wonderful.
The U.S. has lost that. You're right.
Yeah, we've lost that, unfortunately. It was kind of funny because with individuals who are disabled, you're expected to have familial care there. So the state doesn't provide it. So one day, one of the physical therapists had Lynn walking out in front of the clinic on the sidewalk. An older woman stopped by and tried to hand her money, thinking she might need it.
Yeah.
It's just the concept of kindness to others. It's a very Catholic nation, of course, so the concept of tithing as well
Sure.
is just everywhere around you there.
They follow the golden rule, huh?
Yeah, very much so. With homeless people, you might see somebody buying day-old bread and putting it in a bag and hanging it on a tree or that kind of thing where they can have access to it.
Sarah and I talked about that. If we just bring the golden rule back, that was the only rule that the world had. What a great place this would be.
It matters the most.
Yeah.
That's
I saw that when I was over in Europe, how they're so compassionate with my disease and accommodating, cut the line of everything and give me extra time for this and that. I come back to the USA, it's like, get out the way. The only time people are nice to you here in the US is inside of Mayo Clinic, inside of, Cleveland Clinic or something. Like, once you get outside, it's like, move, you're a burden to society.
When the law requires it,
Yeah.
So it's also rated one of the most dog-friendly cities in the world. In 3 blocks, we'd see 20 dogs with dog walkers every day. We never saw a stray dog.
Really?
I mean, we didn't live in a barrio, so of course there are stray dogs in the city, but we didn't see any. Everybody has a dog or a cat, and they're everywhere.
Are there any chickens for roaming?
Not where we were, of course.
No.
Think of it more like Soho in New York or something like that.
Yeah, I got you.
Buenos Aires is about the same size as New York as well. So it's a large city. But there's also a public park every couple blocks. So there is a lot of green space, which is nice.
Has Lynn's vertical gotten better?
The vertigo itself is better. Yeah, I would say yes. Her balance is better. They were working on that. It was getting better, but then since we'd only planned to stay 3 months, wound up sick, we literally had to go. Time for a resupply, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
So
But
how long are you staying at home till in the
uh,
States?
we got back early July, right after her last treatment, and we will be taking off October 28th, I believe it is. So a sizable chunk of time, actually.
Yeah.
And that's why we're seeing the diminishing effect of the vascular cells. Neurological cells hang on longer.
Yeah.
So we're seeing, some of those are actually just now starting to come online as they're maturing.
Yeah, they take normally. I'm told up to like eight months in totality for the brain to develop.
Exactly. So the cells we're seeing develop in Lynn's brain now are, only the first third of the treatments she received.
Yeah. Well, that's positive to see the increase she had before coming back. Only knowing that you're a third of the way into it, so that's even more positive.
And that just also shows the absolute critical importance of those vascular cells.
Yeah, I agree.
Corey, talking with Teresita, she said that the vascular cells are incredibly important because they're one of the few things that will help the capillary function. And that's where your fresh and used blood exchanges.
Yeah, that's one thing that chases down with me is my artery and too many gases in my blood that are causing the blackouts and stuff like that. So yeah, I completely understand that. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I'm happy it's working out, and going back for a full year. That means it has to be working.
Yeah, well, and give us a holler this time next year. We'll still be down there, but we'll know a lot more about what we're doing and
Absolutely.
the effect on Lynn.
For sure.
She may be a clinical trial of one, but if we can help other people, that'd be wonderful.
Well, we're hoping we'll still be here in a year.
All of us.
We will. There will be another podcast from then, and you so.
Yeah, it's supposed to listen to come back. Until then, remember, we're all at Mistake Crusaders.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Thank you.